I've been putting off this episode for a while now because I've always known that this build is going to take quite a lot of planning and figuring out. And I think that this industrial zone is a good example of not much planning or figuring out. It's some very simple roads, basic rail infrastructure, and just zoned and forgotten about. It's the bare bones. But I want this area to be so much more, which is why we have to plan so much of it. It's going to be all based around rail infrastructure that is probably too many rail lines down here. But you know what? Bugger it. Let's do it. Because I actually think we need it to support more realistic looking industry with freight being directly delivered to that industrial zone. So of course, we're going to be creating some custom cargo stations, just planning them out, and obviously just for showsies. And down the track, I'm sure at some stage we'll be able to make these things actually functional. But for now, they're just for show. We're also going to be building a port to support all this, as well as detailing up our very first cruise terminal. So, a bit of a big episode. We're going to kick it off with a fairly short time lapse, probably about 10 minutes or so. I wanted to start by clearing away all our old industry that sat down here, all zoned, and just seeing how it works, seeing how it functions within the city, and it was doing pretty well. However, it looks pretty outdated. There's nothing in terms of detail down here, so it's gotta go. And with all that gone, we had a little bit of space now to do some terraforming. I wanted to change a lot of the land around here so that it reflected more of this industrial zone in Bayonne, which is the source of inspiration for today's build. This whole area is really interesting. There's just so much industry down here. In particular, these two major ports. I'm gonna call them ports. One of them is clearly a port with cargo ships coming in, and I wanted to do something very similar. But then we've also got this UPS center here, and I knew exactly how we were going to incorporate something that was going to be kind of similar. So I think you can kind of guess what we're going to be doing. And I guess the main idea that I'm taking from all of this is big industry. There is nothing in terms of just a small little business here and a small little industrial zone there. It is all big chunks of industry that are zoned for a particular use. And I wanted to take that idea and create 4 distinct industrial zones. We're going to be having our large rail yard on the left-hand side, and then in the center, we'll have our 2 large piers or ports or, I don't know, big jotted out pieces of land. I don't really know what to call these things. One of them will be a port. We're working on that right now. And then on the right-hand side, we'll be doing some sort of oil industry that I haven't quite figured out yet, but I am really looking forward to fleshing that out and detailing it up and trying to make it some sort of functional area. But I think that'll be something we will need to figure out a little later on. But for this port, this was a pretty good fit here. And this is our very first port within New Diamsburg, so this is exciting. And it actually fitted in beautifully and very much reflects what I am taking inspiration from, which is very cool. Also very cool is placing down this postal sorting facility, which is a great addition in terms of a pretty good fit for, again, what we're taking inspiration from. I've kind of like switched the sides that they are sitting on, so in real life, they kind of go on the other way around, but switching it up is so fine. I'm so okay with that. I do like the fact that I was able to place a whole bunch of these warehouses behind it as part of the facility as well. Again, very similar, as well as our cruise terminal too. So we are adding in so many different ideas and so many large buildings that are just hopefully going to be so functional as well. Like, it's going to be, I don't know, interesting to see how well all of these things work in the same vicinity, because I know in City Skylines 1, this could be very chaotic and quite, might need quite a lot of infrastructure to handle such, huge amount of people making their journey out this way and all the freight as well. So we'll just have to wait and see how all of this works. I'm hoping that our rail infrastructure will help to kind of ease that. And I think it's just going to be fun seeing all those things just kind of working all together. So I guess the theme for this whole area is just big, lots of big pieces of infrastructure. And then the last industrial zone that I am planning out is, I think I'm going to be doing it for oil as a specialized industry, because I think that we don't have any sort of specialized industry at this stage, and I think that this would be a great fit. So that's the plan. If you've got any ideas of how I can make this thing really, really interesting, please let me know, because I haven't done anything like this, so I think it's going to be really fun. Of course, all inspired by this area. This area is just crazy, and I think that trying to incorporate a lot of these ideas will be definitely key, because I reckon this will be a lot of fun. But I think this will be for another day. I am trying out a whole bunch of different things, placing down some of the unique industrial buildings, but they're just too large. This is not a big area. This is representing a big area, but in terms of New Dunsburg, it's definitely not that large. So I do think we'll have to come back down here and figure that out. But with all the roads all planned out, and with the big chunks of industry already down here, it was time to start mapping out where all of our rail line is going to go. And I'll go through how all this is going to work, how all the rail line is going to be connected up, but the general idea was to get quite a lot down here and to make it so that it felt fairly functional and fairly realistic, and so that it was a nice connection to our industrial zones, but then also to the outside connections too. But let's dive into a live play, and I can give you a better tour of everything, and we'll also add in a whole bunch of extra stuff. So let's have a little bit of an explore before we start building, and I think we should start with the rail infrastructure, which I am quite proud of and really happy about the amount of rail lines I've been able to squeeze in such a small space. I mean, it's a pretty big space, but oh man, there's a lot going on down here. But I do have to say, I am no train guy. I like trains, I'm an enthusiast, but in terms of my knowledge and expertise on the matter, it's pretty surface level. So if you've got any ideas and suggestions, always leave them down below, because I do like to implement some things that are easy, somewhat easy, or on a more realistic sense. So you're very welcome to leave some comments, and I can add bits and pieces here and there. But what I want to show you is, first of all, we have two outside connections to our, and when I say outside, I mean outside this area. We've got two lines that are leaning out, and a potential third. We've got this one that is also going to be connecting up this whole port that's going to sit on this island, and that stretches all across here, and it actually only connects up to our port, which I think is totally fine. I like the fact that this line is kind of doing its own thing. It's not connected to the other line that is coming into this area, which is mostly going towards our rail yard. There is a big piece of infrastructure that is going into there. It also goes into areas like this and goes all the way this way to this whole piece of industry. And I've also created this little section. I reckon I'll have some sort of small rail yard there, and the third potential outside connection could be here, and a bridge that could stretch. However, I'm also totally fine with just leaving it at a dead end. So just an idea. But going back to my sections, how I've kind of designated 4 sections to this whole industrial area, I've tried to make it so that the rail infrastructure kind of reflects that, leading into areas that you can sort of see where stations and unloading areas are going to sit. Particularly around this area. This is our rail yard, and then we've also got one leading up here. We've got multiple that I reckon we'll be using. Hopefully we can connect up some sort of, and I reckon this will come later on down the track, and maybe you already know how to do it, but connecting up some sort of custom cargo station would be amazing there. And then we've also got this section, so you can kind of make out the different areas and zones that we have, and the rail lines are kind of going in those directions. I just need to try and figure out a way of making custom cargo stations, because the one that we have for City Skylines 2, look at all these taxis driving in. Love that. Yeah, this guy, look at that. Look at the size of that. So in terms of cargo stations for our rail line, we don't have any at this moment. However, we can actually, in fact, connect up one of them. So we will, in fact, see a train rolling through this area. And I reckon we do that right now. Okay, so just recorded a whole bunch of gameplay, but then realized that I didn't record the audio properly. So let me just get you up to speed. So as you can see, we do have a whole bunch of cargo ships arriving and our train network is working quite well, but I have to admit, I'm not seeing as many vehicles on the roads as I did expect, although there's good reason behind that, and I think it's pretty glaringly obvious. We just don't have any industry down this area, so I think that as soon as we start zoning out some industry, that will help. I also think that we have very poor connection to the highway. I think that industry is just being served far better elsewhere within the city, so there's good reason why this port is not working as well as I expected. I've also disconnected it, so that's why you're not seeing anything down here at the moment. So that might be an easy fix. However, our post-sorting facility, I don't think is quite as easily fixed. And I think it might be a bit of a bug. As you can see, there is just nothing going on down here. And I think that it's just because the game is maybe not functioning the way that it should be. I don't think that the mail really works quite like it's been advertised. The mail in terms of the city, I have improved it quite a lot. And it is being picked up in lots more places than it was before. We had some pretty poor coverage, but I think now we are sorting out the city pretty well. So this is good. It's nice to see all these vans driving around, and I have included a post office pretty close to our facility. So I was kind of hoping to see more functionality happen because they are sitting so close together, but look, not really. I mean, our post office is working pretty well, but I don't see it really making any deliveries to our sorting facility. In fact, I've not seen any vehicles leave this place. I don't know about this facility. Maybe it'll start working magically. Maybe I just gotta wait until some bugs are fixed. Who knows? Let me know if you've got any suggestions with how to make this thing actually function. It does look pretty nice over there though, doesn't it? As disappointing as that is, let's move on to something that's not as disappointing. Yeah, the road mechanics in this game are great, and I think that it's going to really help to create a realistic, functioning harbor that will help to get people to and from this place, because I didn't really see a huge amount of people using this cruise terminal before. So I'm kind of hoping that by improving the way this thing is connected and maybe even adding some public transport, hopefully then we might see some more people actually making the trip out this way. So let's finish him off. First of all, what I've done is I have made it so that it is going to be a one-way loop into our cruise terminal. We've got this one that goes all the way this way, and then I've started to make a bit of a loop, but I'm thinking that this could actually be a connection to some sort of parking lot that sits in the middle, because I'm planning to get rid of these two on either side, and this one over here I think will go to maybe some sort of, I don't know, maybe some office blocks, maybe something else that could sit around here, or maybe this is the continuous loop that goes around here. This is super similar to the one that I created in Sunset City, if you can remember the one that I built for that one. Kind of similar. I actually think that a lot of these cruise terminals operate in a similar fashion, so kind of happy with this. But I do think that some sort of car park in the middle will work really well. I do have some space if I wanted to just place this thing out, but I actually think that it would work a whole lot better if we create a custom one. Okay, a little bit of custom parking, nothing too flash, particularly at the moment where it's just connected to a grass lot. So let's improve that. Oh, actually, hold on, before I lay down any of the surfaces, I need to connect it up. So basically I'm using these invisible roads here. They are so useful and incredibly powerful. Basically it's as simple as just connecting up those little green segments. I do have to connect it up like that, but see how it's just a little connected guy just down there? That is actually kind of perfect. I might turn on snapping just so I can make sure that it is connected, and we'll do a bit of a connection like that. And that is pretty wonderful. So now that I've got show all markers, I can now just go in and trace over where the actual roads are going to sit. Actually, hold on. It actually lets me snap to it. Oh, that is actually quite wonderful. Alright, for sure did that the hard way, whatever, it's there, it looks pretty good. What I'm going to do now is, I'm going to add in some mulch at some point, but I reckon we connect up some of the pathways so that people can get around pretty easily. Let's maybe do some crossings on this road. Not there, I don't think that's a good spot for it. And look, I've got another invisible one, and I'm going to drag it right up the front. Oh, that didn't work. Let's try that again. Really doesn't want to make a pathway through there, so what's another option? I'm going to make a little intersection, and then maybe if I delete the intersection, will it then remain as a little node? Let's drop in a crosswalk, and then I'll delete the node. Nah, I don't think that worked. Oh, it did work. Cool. I'll use Move It just to drag it center to the entranceway, and voila. And then I'll drag out some invisible paths just to really encourage people to walk around here. And hopefully this will get people parking at this car park and then using these pathways to connect up. Ooh, what's gonna happen there? That's fine. Alright, it is fully decked out now. We have 2 terminals, and we've also got, which I'm sure you expected, a bus integration too. So that's looking pretty lovely. I'm going to go into public transport, and I'm going to go into our ships. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to call it Cruise. Oh, pretty unoriginal, to be honest. If you got like a name idea for what this cruise terminal can be called, or maybe even what the cruise line is, hit me up. But I'm actually just gonna drop down how many cruise ships we have. I'm gonna pop it just down to 1. I only want 1 heading to each terminal, and not even that frequently. Because realistically, you're not gonna see a huge amount of cruise ships turning up to these things. You know, it's every now and again, not that much. So I'm gonna drop down how often they actually turn up. And the way that I've set it up is that Cruise Terminal 1 goes to that connection, and then Cruise Terminal 2 goes over that way. Oh yeah, great. That's what I expected. So while these guys pick up passengers or just figure themselves out, I'm going to change the way that buses get into our harbor, because I don't think that this is the best and most efficient way of getting in. You know, driving this way and then making a sharp turn, pretty much a right angle into this. I reckon we could do a little bit better. Better bulldozer, and let's maybe... am I gonna totally ruin everything here? Oh, okay, come on. That's kind of worked. So let's see what happens when buses actually turn up to this thing. I don't love this little connection. Just to show you, it's pretty wonky. I'm not gonna lie. But I reckon we could probably cover up a lot of it, and it is working. So, well, actually we don't know that. Let's see if it actually does work. Okay, a taxi has made its way into our little taxi rank, which I completely forgot about. I was about to add in my own one, but that is a pretty nice little taxi rank. I'm happy with that. And off it goes using that one, which is great. And here comes another one. And then he goes. Lovely. I'm happy with that. I haven't seen a bus yet. And the moment of truth, here comes a bus. What's it gonna do? And you know what? That is wonderful. Oh dearie. Okay. It's not too bad. What can we do to improve that? Let me think. I actually think it doesn't need to connect right there. Okay, so I've just changed the path of whereabouts the buses leave the terminal, and I think it's going to work out a whole lot better. Now they come through this way, and then they'll leave the same way as the taxis, and I think that's going to work out really well. Taxis, I don't know why you're going out that way. I don't love that. That's a bit cheeky. But unfortunately, I don't love the fact that when I drag out this white line, because it's connecting up to a different terminal, a different stop, it now enters through this entrance, which is kind of annoying. I don't really want it to do that. It only changes when I connect up to the same station. So, I don't know what to do there. I think I'm just going to disconnect it, and we'll just have the red line for now. But you know what? Now that we've got that all connected up, we should probably add in some details. Alright, back in business. That's fine. Now, I have now been able to connect up both bus lanes, bus networks into this section. They are using it the best way possible. I'm happy with that. People jump off, and then they enter into our harbor through this little entrance, which is pretty cool. Maybe a little unsafe, so let's just add a crosswalk in there so taxis know. But that's pretty sweet, and I love the fact that the taxis are heading into that taxi rank, which is awesome. We have tons of people waiting there. We actually have tons of people using our harbor now, which is super lovely. It does bear a pretty strong resemblance to the one we're taking inspiration from, so I am happy with that. Oh yeah, that's pretty hideous. And you know what? I think that is looking pretty sweet. I know it's just a small amount of detail up there, but it is very much completing the picture. However, I reckon we go lightning round and we just detail all this up super fast. Let's go. Look at all that delicious industry. And you can tell there's just a bit of detail down there. I said lightning round detail work, but honestly, I've gone pretty heavy. The decals, oh man, the decals are just great. You can just kind of go crazy with them and just add them everywhere. And they really look the part. Make everything look just nice and dirty, which is great. I think that this area is pretty much complete. Didn't expect to be putting so much effort into just one of the many wharves that we've got around here, but I think that it's good just to get an idea of the style of the place and get a good idea of how we can detail some things up. But what I am really loving the fact that we have just like a big chunk of industry that is kind of just sitting around here. I know it's not like industry in its truest form, it is just a postal service, but I do think that it does add quite a lot and it does feel like a big chunk of industry. So you can just imagine how it's going to look when we have this whole section that is just all industrial with a big highway interchange that's going to sit around here as well. I think that's going to be really lovely. But I also think that the surfaces really add a lot, really just connecting up this whole section so that it is just one big slab of concrete, I think really helps. And it would be so nice just to see some postal trucks driving around here. It's a bit of a shame, isn't it? But I don't know. I guess it is what it is. I am still trying to figure out the best way to detail up some sort of rock wall, and I've tried a couple of different surfaces, but I actually think the best of it is probably just the rock wall that is vanilla, and I just think leaving it is just fine. So I've just left it, but I would like to come into this at some point when we get some sort of assets and drag out some sort of network. So it is a bit more of a rock wall. I have done something a little bit different on this side. I've just created a bit of a concrete area that is kind of like an extension of our wharf, which I do think works pretty well. This is just a key that is created with a path. So, you know, just trying to get a little bit creative with this. But I've just added in some little bits of detail, like adding in an extra little car park. Maybe it's like an overflow car park for our harbor, which I don't think they'd ever need it because it's pretty much just being the 2 cars and that's about it. It's a real shame, but it is what it is. If you can think of any other ways of making this thing a little bit more happening, please let me know. The only thing I can think is I probably need to add some more tourist destinations within the city to get people to come into the city to explore and hang out, basically to attract some tourists, because at the moment we probably don't have any of that, but people just, 39 people, it's fine, but it's also kind of not fine. But apart from those complaints, I do think that this is turning out pretty lovely. I do want to add one last thing before we move on. These buildings are looking a little bit samey. So what I'll do is I think I'll just have a little go at splicing in some buildings just to hide some of the sameness. You know what? I reckon that's it. I should probably remove some of the fences because they're kind of blocking a little bit of all of that. So we'll just remove those guys. And that is pretty good. All right, next job. I think one of the key reasons why we're not seeing much action down here at the moment is because we've pretty much removed all the industry within the city. It all sat down here and we've pretty much gotten rid of all of it. We do have a couple of little trucks just driving around, but honestly, they're not going to anywhere in particular. I think these guys are actually just serving all this, which is all of the things that we just placed down. So we do need to zone out some more industrial zones. I don't really have any at the moment, which is a little bit sad. Just zooming out, you can see we've got a bit of a chunk over here, and I'm going to expand that section out, but I'm also going to zone out a fairly temporary industrial zone right here, because this is only going to be kind of temporary. I'm still working on this section, so this is very much just, this will do for now, and then we will have to rezone it up and think about how this is going to look a little bit more down the track. This section down here is also incredibly temporary. You can tell that I have very much just zoned it and kind of forgotten about this whole area. It's pretty bad. So I'm going to continue the band and zone out some more areas that are really just going to serve the purpose of adding industry to the city. And we now have 2 pretty large industrial sectors of the city. They are, again, fairly temporary. They're just kind of placeholders until I get a really good idea of the demand. Hey, check that out. We've got our demand back. Lovely. Because I want to add some stuff down here too. And I think that this is probably the style that we're going to be going for the industry in this area. Big warehouses taking up full blocks of land. This is a spot full of big industry. and big infrastructure, so I think that this is very fitting. Now, of course, these buildings are not functional. They are sub-buildings as part of, well, a couple of different buildings. We have a cargo train terminal storage warehouse, so this is only really ploppable if you are using Find It. So that's how I'm able to place that building down there, and as well for this one, the cargo harbor warehouse, which you can find as part of this, but I have placed it down wherever I like, again, using Find It. And I have also used Find It to place down these guys, as well as plop the globals. These are just a whole bunch of warehouses that you can find, and they are also functional, which is lovely. Although, not quite functional, because unfortunately, people are just not taking up shop in these. So I'm not really sure what the problem is. It's the same for these warehouses, because I do want these to be functional warehouses, not just eating into our money and not just polluting our land, but also functioning as warehouses. And I have spliced in a whole bunch of globals in here, but again, and I can't click on them because there's this big old warehouse in the way. There's one. Ooh, can I get him? There he is. Again, no one is taking up shop here, which is so frustrating, because we absolutely have the demand for warehouses and for industry. You know, if I was just to zone it out, people do want to set up shop in the city. However, the ones that I placed down, they don't want to, which is just so annoying. So I think what I'm going to do is just zone out some areas, and I think that this is going to be the next best thing. And look, that's pretty much already taking care of the demand, which is great. But I will put it to you guys, why aren't people wanting to move into these industrial buildings that I'm placing down with Find It and Plop the Globals? I feel like they were doing it before. They're not for these ones. The only thing I can think of is that maybe I'm trying to place down buildings that are part of a specialized industry. That is my only thinking behind it all. It's very annoying. For the meantime, for this area, I'm going to be placing out this recycling center. You know what? It fits in pretty well right in that little spot, so he might just end up staying there, but I have just placed it out because I feel like I need something around here, and our rubbish situation is starting to drive me nuts. So hopefully, being so close, we might actually start seeing rubbish getting picked up. You know what? I'm just like expanding this out, and I might, in fact, have enough. Ooh, is it gonna let me? So how about if I just? Is that all right? I think that's fine. And let's just borrow a couple of these little surfaces, and we'll just drag them out because they look pretty nice. And now that we've got some stuff out here, let's put our train line to the test. We do have one functional cargo station that is inbuilt with our harbor, but let's build a couple of non-functional ones. They're just going to put our train line under a little bit of extra pressure. Let's start with our rail yard. I would like to see a whole bunch of freight trains rolling into this area, so I am going to place a couple of these stations. I think probably around here would work the best. What am I looking for here? Trains. Coming $2. Pay attention. Now, once again, these aren't going to be functional train terminals. You can't make them at the moment in City Skylines 2, but they are going to make it so that we can actually see some trains rolling into this area, and so that we can get a good idea of how everything's going to work and function, and just put a bit of pressure on our roads and on our train line too, which is, to be honest, probably something that I'm more interested in anyway. So the only way I've been able to make these functional is by dragging out one of these train station tracks, and then I have to use one of the integrated passenger train stops. I have to place one of them on the line. Look, I've already done one just here. So let's do one of these lines so I can show you. I'm gonna make another one on this track. Oops, it's getting a little bit hairy. Might just need to move it a little bit better, $2. Just trying to make this station a little bit longer, otherwise I think it's going to be just a little bit too short. Okay, that's almost it. Okay, that'll do. So, I'm now going to grab one of the integrated passenger train stops, and I'm going to place that on here, because for some reason I am not able to just place one of the cargo stops. See, won't give me any access. So instead, I have to place one of these ones down, and then I can actually place the cargo station on top. I don't know why it's like that, it just is. And then with those two cargo stations right there, I can now drag out our network. so that it goes to our outside connection. And hopefully we're going to see some cargo trains. Wonderful. Again, no freight on this guy. It's just a little dummy train, and it's just to put a little bit of pressure on all of this network, which is lovely. So, first things first, there is also going to be a freight connection to this station right here. So that means that we have quite a lot of trains using all this network. I think that the line that is connecting to our cargo harbor doesn't need to go all the way through the city. I'd actually much prefer it if he was instead taking this line across the bridge and then making the connection to our terminal over here, which is the only connection that he has. He is going along the shortest route, unfortunately, so I do have to figure out a way of making it so that he doesn't go that way instead. Let's redrag out his line and see if we can make some improvements this way. Aha, I think that's worked. It has. Wait, did it? Connect. Yes, it has worked. So what I've done is I have made it so that he's going, I guess, the long way around. He now goes all the way through here, and I have had to just put a little stop there. Maybe that's just making a little waypoint, which is actually quite cool. The fact that you can just make a little marker there saying, I want you to go this way, not the other way. So I'm going to continue that. I'm going to do another little spot there, and then we will connect him up. And I don't think it's going to stop at that little spot. I think it's just a waypoint, which I didn't think was possible. Once again, going from something that is frustrating about the game to something that is actually kind of cool. Yes, that is right. 4 cargo terminals in this one little area. If anything, I think I would prefer to have even more. You know, all these little spots up here? Yeah, these should probably be little cargo terminals. This is where trains and freight are going to be coming into this industrial spot and unloading and loading goods. You know, this is how cargo is going to be imported and exported in this little peninsula. So I think that it's fairly realistic to have that many. What I'm going to do though is I'm going to greatly reduce the amounts that we are going to be seeing. So it's not going to be just bumper to bumper full of trains coming into the one area all the time. It is going to be pretty sparingly. So I'm going to do the same thing, connect them all up to our outside connection. Once again, they are all going to the same spot, and it's a bit of a shame. We probably need to add a couple more, don't we? Okay, they're all connected up, and now I'm going to name them up so that we can keep track of which one is going where, and I think I'll probably just group them. We'll make them all this nice little baby poo green. Man, you know what would be really cool? If we could actually group all these. You know, just have like a separate group, because I think that we're gonna have a lot of industry at some point. At some point within this series, there's gonna be a lot. So grouping them up would actually be so much fun. And you know what I'm actually gonna do? I'm going to make it so that we only see one on each line, and rather than coming in day and night, I'm just gonna put it as nighttime. Or maybe not for all of them. We might keep this one as day and night, but we'll make the rest of them all just nighttime. But I'm gonna reduce the number of trains just to 1. We're not gonna see heaps rolling through here, but a couple will do. And with all those extra trains, we need to upgrade our rail yard. And I reckon we're still gonna see a couple of issues coming up around here. I mean, we do have enough space for trains to get by, and we do have the tools to do it, so let's just upgrade this little section so that we have 3 lines. And using Road Builder, I have made these lines multi-directional, so hopefully that should also fix a bit of the problem. We now have this custom triple lane track that I can go through and just upgrade all of these sections. So I might do that. Oh, sorry, buddy. And that little section will make that triple, but this little spot I think is probably a little bit too tight for that many lines. So we might just we'll just go a doubler. Just watching 3 freight trains rolling through here is very satisfying. I love the fact they have to navigate all of this network, and of course it could be so much better, but I do like the fact that it is a little bit all over the place and still kind of chaotic and still very narrow in areas, and having to navigate just one lane train line is super fun. So I'm really happy with how everything is starting to look. In terms of functioning though, I have to admit, I'm still pretty disappointed. The fact that we don't have a huge amount of people using our harbor, actually take that back, that's not too bad, but I do feel like we need more than that. I don't see a huge amount of cargo coming in, which is again very disappointing, and the fact that this is doing bugger all is, I mean, you get the picture, it's just so annoying. I would really like to see a lot more action down here. We do have a little bit, but honestly, it's taxis, it's buses, it's things that I've already dragged out. We do see a couple of cargo trucks rolling in, but not a huge amount. And I have to admit, in City Skylines 1, it was probably a little bit unrealistic how much road traffic we had when we had barges being pulled up to these things, and, you know, just so many trucks rolling off it. Yeah, probably a little bit unrealistic, but it would be nice to see a bit more than this. Hopefully that will improve when we start adding in more stuff within the city, or maybe some updates, who knows. But guys, that is it for today's episode. I think that we've done quite a lot, and a lot of figuring out and planning, and a lot of interesting stuff still to come. So let me know if you've got any ideas or suggestions for things that we should add in this area, and if you have any things, and of course, simple changes, also let me know. Next episode, I don't think we'll be down here. I've got something else big planned. I think I'm going to do it. I'm pretty sure I'm going to do it. It's going to be pretty epic. It's something that a lot of you guys have been requesting for a while, and I think it's going to be pretty fun, but pretty ambitious, and I think I'm just going to dive right in and do it. But guys, thank you all so much for watching, and a massive shout outs to the patrons over on Patreon, supporting the channel and making videos like this possible. A big shout outs to the newest guys: Jian Young Take, Ken's Channel, Avia, Da Alphan Supreme, Cairo Pompetta, Tielos, Nell Zinger, Nope, Alex White, Migo Buzz 97, Bravid, Jacob Nybo, and Moritz Lapek. Cheers guys, thank you so much for your support, and I'll see you in the next one.